All right, so when we're doing this particular part, what we want to do is we want to test the idea as the light is traveling in a straight line. And so this is one of the possible testing experiments we can do. Now, when I start this, you're going to want to do like a diagram. So I draw a picture of the candle, and then I draw a picture of the screen. Now, as a teacher, I want to build up to the main concepts. So I start with just a point on the top and a point on the bottom. And I will lead a line through here, and then I lead a line from the bottom. And at this point is when I would typically stop and ask the students, what should I see? And we're building up the idea that some are going to say it's like, oh, it's a hole of light, or I see two dots because I only draw two dots. And so that's what they're thinking, like, oh, this part lights up here, this part lights up here. So then once those conversations get started, I bring in the idea of like, okay, well, don't forget, it's not just the top and the bottom, but it's all these other spots in between. So I can put in more dots. And so as I start putting in more dots, you see what's happening. And I'm going to number them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so then I look at where do these lines go? Well, line 6 goes up here. Line 5 goes here. Line 4. And so it starts showing the idea that, oh, it's not just the top and the bottom, but it's every point sending through just one spot through this screen. And I could put in a line here, and you see how it's in between 1 and 2. So they start to develop the idea that what you're going to see is an upside down flame. Now, a couple things to think about with this is I typically don't start with this, even though it's a great observation. You can, and you can kind of work backwards from that to get them excited about it. When you're doing the experiment, it's up to you whether your own classroom, whether you have the students do it. I typically don't, based upon maturity levels and different things like that. So I like using a lot of these types here where it's much safer. I got to hold down, go in here, and so I have a controlled flame environment. The other thing that makes this a little bit challenging sometimes is the index screen. So I like using note cards. What you can do is just have a small note card. You can have a large screen if you want to, and then getting the hole the right size. You're going to want to try this out because if the hole's too large, you are going to lose that distinct flame identity. If it's too small, you're not going to get anything through. So you also need to make sure the room is dark enough because what happens is a lot of the background light, you're not going to be able to see the image on the screen with this background light. And so once we get to this point, and they realize they have an upside down image of the flame, I start leading into other things, talking about a pinhole camera. That's a great experiment some of you can do, but also just regular cameras, how they work. Then it also gets into other applications, talking about the human eye. So this is a great way when we're talking about light traveling in a straight line, using this particular flame experiment of what you can do in your classroom to show and test the model out and then expand it into other applications. So thank you and have a wonderful day.